Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. Let's dig in. Here's what's been going on in Russia in the last 24 hours. Let's start in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces have effectively consolidated control of Pokrovsk after nearly 2 years of fighting. This campaign kicked off in serious form after Avdiivka fell in February 2024, and by December 2025, Moscow was already claiming the town. What's new now is confirmation that Ukrainian forces are no longer operating inside the settlement. Here's the nuance. Despite the Kremlin hype, and yes, there was hype, the seizure of Pokrovsk has not unlocked the grand offensive Moscow advertised. Valery Gerasimov called it crucial. Putin said it opened up multiple directions. But operationally, Russian forces haven't even secured Rhetoric, which is just a couple kilometers northwest. They haven't broken towards Slovyansk or Kramatorsk in any decisive way. So yes, it's a territorial gain, but it doesn't look like the domino they promised. It looks more like another brick in a very slow wall. Now let's zoom out to negotiations. Yesterday we talked about UN optics and US abstention votes. Today the action is more bilateral. President Zelensky spoke with President Trump on February 25th. Both agreed the next round of trilateral talks, Ukraine, Russia, US, should elevate to the leaders' level in early March. That's the headline. Ukrainian negotiator Rustem Umerov is meeting US envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Geneva. The focus isn't just ceasefire mechanics, it's reconstruction frameworks, what Zelensky is calling a prosperity package, and prisoner exchanges. On the Russian side, Kirill Dmitriev is expected to engage US interlocutors. But here's the key. The positions haven't fundamentally shifted. Russia still wants recognition of its annexations. Ukraine isn't giving up territory. NATO presence remains radioactive. The process is moving, but the substance is stuck. And while diplomacy moves carefully, Moscow is raising the rhetorical temperature. On February 24th and 25th, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service rolled out accusations that Britain and France are plotting to provide Ukraine with nuclear capabilities, including references to French TN-75 warheads. If that sounds dramatic, it's because it is. Zelensky rejected it outright, calling it pressure tactics ahead of negotiations. This feels like an update to yesterday's nuclear rhetoric thread. Not a brand new escalation, but an amplification. Moscow knows nuclear language grabs headlines. It also knows Western capitals have low tolerance for escalation risk. So the Kremlin dusts off the Cold War binder, flips to the dirty bomb tab and says, let's remind everyone we're still at the big table. Classic move. Seen it before. Now, economically, Ukraine continues to apply pressure. This is where the story has evolved a bit since our last episode. Ukrainian-produced FP-5 Flamingo cruise missiles reportedly struck the Votkinsk machine-building plant in Udmurtia on the night of February 20th to 21st, roughly 1,700 kilometers deep. That's serious reach. Ukrainian officials said they've resumed production of the system after earlier Russian strikes hit the manufacturing line. Then on February 25th, Ukrainian drones hit the Dorogobush chemical plant in Smolensk Oblast. Russian authorities say 7 were killed. That facility produces ammonium nitrate and nitric acid. Fertilizers, yes, but also inputs for explosives manufacturing. That's a dual-use pressure point. And remember the Kalikino oil pumping station strike? That's now reportedly forced Transneft to reduce crude intake by about 250,000 barrels per day. That's not collapse level, but it's not nothing. Which leads us to Hungary. Yesterday, we discussed Viktor Orban blocking EU funding. Today, the dispute has sharpened around the Druzhba pipeline. Orban is accusing Ukraine of deliberately delaying repairs and called it an oil blockade. He deployed soldiers to energy infrastructure sites and restricted drone flights near Hungary's northeastern border. The European Commission is saying alternative supply through Croatia's Adria pipeline covers Hungary and Slovakia. But politically, Orban has not budged. The €90 billion EU loan package remains blocked. So while Kyiv tightens itself politically to Europe, parts of Europe are tightening their wallets. On the military front, strategic, not trench by trench, the pattern continues. Russia is conducting offensive operations across Donetsk, Kharkiv, Zaporizhzhia, and Sumy. Gains remain incremental. Ukrainian forces have conducted localized advances near Belitska, north of Pokrovsk, and in Stepnohirsk in western Zaporizhia. No sweeping breakthroughs on either side. What has changed is tempo in the air. On the night of February 24th into the 25th, Russia launched 115 drones. Ukraine intercepted 95. Russian forces are reportedly launching Shahed-type drones during daylight hours now, increasing risk to civilians from debris. Kyiv is responding by accelerating installation of anti-drone nets over 4,000 kilometers of frontline roads this year. That's a massive civil-military adaptation effort. Meanwhile, Ukraine is dispersing its defense industry. The first Ukrainian drone production facility has opened in the UK under Ukrspec systems. That's redundancy outside Russian missile range. It's quiet, but strategically smart. Financially, the IMF is reviewing an $8.1 billion lending package for Ukraine. The World Bank pegs reconstruction costs at $588 billion. Kyiv talks closer to $800 billion over 10 years. Norway, Lithuania, Canada, Estonia all announced additional military or financial support this week. Inside Russia, the security state is tightening again, and this is an update to yesterday's internal posture discussion. Starting March 1st, Roskomnadzor will have authority to reroute national internet traffic during crises. The Gossaka cyber monitoring system now includes municipal agencies and state enterprises. Google was fined over VPN distribution. Telegram is facing pressure, with officials floating the possibility of designating it a terrorist accomplice. It's not full Great Firewall, but the direction is unmistakable. Sovereign internet, security state overlay. Domestically, there was a suicide bombing near Moscow's Savyolovsky railway station on February 24th that killed a traffic police officer. Authorities said the bomber was recruited online. In Krasnodar, at least 10 teenagers face terrorism charges for setting fire to railway equipment after being offered payment via Telegram. Their families are petitioning to reduce the charges to property damage. Civil defense training programs now include drone protection drills for non-working citizens. That's not just wartime adaptation, that's normalization of wartime psychology. Elsewhere, Poland detained 4 Belarusians and 2 Polish nationals for attempting to export integrated circuit production equipment to Russia via Belarus, allegedly for drone assembly. Cash was seized. Sanctions enforcement is active. And in the U.S., Peter Williams, tied to a subsidiary of L3 Harris, was sentenced to 87 months for selling cybersecurity tools to a Russian broker for crypto payments. According to the Justice Department, those tools could have enabled access to millions of digital devices. So technologically, economically, diplomatically, the pressure game continues on all sides. The board today looks like this. Russia holds Pokrovsk, but hasn't broken through. Ukraine is striking deeper inside Russian territory. Negotiations are advancing procedurally, but not substantively. Nuclear rhetoric is back in the conversation. Energy politics are straining EU unity, and internally, Moscow is tightening digital and security controls. Year 5 of this war isn't explosive in one dramatic headline. It's layered, it's grinding, it's strategic positioning with occasional sharp spikes. Thanks for listening and being part of the RH community. Please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. If you want to see some changes, email us at info@restrictedhandling.com. We also publish a daily written intel brief on Substack, where you'll find even deeper coverage of Russia and China, along with insights on Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK.